Everything's bigger in Texas. The sky, the land, the legends. But some things that are bigger in Texas, you don't want to talk about, you don't want to think about, and you definitely don't want to experience. Today, I'm bringing you 5 of the most disturbing tales from the Lone Star State. 10 incidents that occurred between 2015 and 2025. 10 mysteries that still make Texans lock their doors a little tighter at night. From the piney woods of East Texas to the deserts of West Texas. From the Gulf Coast to the Panhandle. These stories cross every corner of the state. Some involve technology that shouldn't be possible. Some involve places that shouldn't exist. And some involve encounters that defy every rational explanation. So settle in, turn up the volume, and prepare yourself. Because in Texas, where everything is larger than life, the mysteries are too. Let's begin. Story 1. The Marfa Lights Messages, 2017. You've probably heard of the Marfa Lights. Those mysterious glowing orbs that appear in the West Texas desert near the small town of Marfa. They've been documented since the 1880s. Thousands of people have seen them. Nobody knows what they are. But in 2017, the lights started doing something new. Something that changed everything. A woman named Rebecca Torres was visiting Marfa with her husband for their anniversary. They'd heard about the famous lights and decided to check them out one evening. They pulled off Highway 90 at the official viewing area, set up their folding chairs, waited. Around 9 p.m., the lights appeared, just like everyone described, glowing orbs hovering and dancing in the distance. Beautiful, mesmerizing. Rebecca was filming on her phone when something strange happened. One of the lights separated from the others and moved closer. Much closer. It came right up to the viewing area, Rebecca later told investigators. Maybe 50 feet away. And then it started pulsing like it was trying to communicate. Her husband suggested they leave, but Rebecca was transfixed. She kept filming. The light pulsed in a pattern. Long flash, short flash, long flash, another long flash. Rebecca's husband, who'd been in the Navy, recognized it immediately. "That's Morse code," he said. They watched as the lights spelled out a message, letter by letter, "Help US." Then the light returned to the others and disappeared. Rebecca posted the video online. Within days, other people came forward. They'd seen messages too. Different messages. All in Morse code. "We are trapped. They won't let US leave. Tell our families." A researcher from Sul Ross State University collected dozens of reports. Every message seemed to come from someone claiming to be stuck in the desert. But there was a problem. Some of the messages included names. And when those names were investigated, they belonged to people who'd vanished in the Marfa area over the past century. Hikers who disappeared. Travelers who were never found. One message spelled out James Morrison, 1952. Records showed a James Morrison had vanished near Marfa in 1952 while on a cross-country road trip. Another said Elena Rodriguez, 1978. A woman by that name had disappeared near Marfa while photographing the desert. The lights were using the names of missing people. People who'd vanished decades ago. As of 2025, the messages continue. Park rangers now warn visitors not to approach if a light comes too close. And whatever you do, don't try to respond. Story 2. The Houston Tunnel Hum. Houston has a secret. Beneath the downtown skyscrapers, there's a network of underground tunnels. Nearly 7 miles of climate-controlled walkways connecting buildings. Thousands of people use them every day to avoid the Texas heat. But in the summer of 2019, people started reporting something unusual. A sound, a low-frequency hum that seemed to come from the walls themselves. At first, only a few people noticed it. Then dozens. Then hundreds. A maintenance worker named Carlos Mendez was one of the first to report it to building management. "It's like a vibration," he explained. You can feel in your chest. And it's getting louder. Security footage from the tunnels showed something strange. People walking through certain sections would suddenly stop, stand perfectly still, then turn and stare at the walls for minutes at a time. When asked about it later, they had no memory of stopping, no memory of staring. I was walking to my building, one office worker said. Next thing I know, 15 minutes have passed, and I'm late for a meeting. A sound engineer was brought in to analyze the hum. He discovered something disturbing. The frequency was exactly 7.83 hertz. That's the same frequency as the Schumann resonance, the electromagnetic frequency of the Earth itself. But this frequency, at this intensity, shouldn't exist in an underground tunnel. It shouldn't exist anywhere in a man-made structure. Then people started reporting dreams, vivid dreams about the tunnels, dreams about walking deeper and deeper underground, dreams about finding doors that shouldn't be there, doors that led to tunnels that weren't on any map. In August 2019, a structural engineer decided to investigate. He brought ground-penetrating radar equipment into the tunnels. What he found made him immediately contact the city. There were spaces behind the walls, hollow spaces, chambers that weren't on any blueprint. Some were small, some were large, and they all connected to a central space deep beneath the city, a space that predated the tunnel system by decades. The city sealed off several sections of the tunnels for maintenance. Official reports said they were dealing with foundation issues, but workers who were down there told a different story. They found symbols carved into the walls of the hidden chambers, symbols that looked ancient but weren't from any known culture. And in the central chamber, they found evidence that people had been there recently, very recently. The hum stopped in September 2019 after the city completed their repairs. But people who use the tunnels regularly say it's not gone. It's just quieter. And sometimes, late at night when the tunnels are nearly empty, you can still feel it. That vibration in your chest, that pull to stop walking, that urge to stare at the walls and wonder what's behind them. Story 3. The Fort Worth Museum Exhibit. Museums are supposed to preserve the past, keep history safe behind glass, tell stories through artifacts. But sometimes, the artifacts have stories they want to tell themselves. The Fort Worth Museum of Science and History opened a new exhibit in January 2024. Voices of Texas, 200 years of letters and diaries. Personal documents from Texans throughout history. Handwritten letters. Journals. Photographs. A beautiful collection of primary sources. Everything was going fine until people started hearing voices in the exhibit hall. Not metaphorical voices. Actual voices. Whispers. A museum guide named Patricia Lee first reported it. She was giving a tour when she heard someone whispering behind her. She turned around. Nobody there, just the display cases. But she could still hear it. Whispering. Multiple voices. Coming from the exhibits themselves. Other staff members experienced it too. Always in that one room. Always whispers. Sometimes you can make out words. Names. Dates. Places. All related to the documents on display. A sound engineer volunteered to investigate. He set up microphones throughout the exhibit. Recorded for 3 nights. What he captured was impossible. Clear voices. Reading from the letters and diaries on display. But not just reading. Adding to them. Continuing stories that had ended decades or centuries ago. My dearest Sarah, I never made a home from a war, but I watched over you all those years. To my son, I'm sorry I couldn't protect you when you needed me most. Dear family, I know you wondered what became of me. I'm still here. I've always been here. The voices were the people who wrote the letters. Or rather, something claiming to be those people. The museum brought in a historian who specialized in the documents. She listened to the recordings. Her face went pale. These details, she said, They're not in the letters we have, but they're accurate. I've cross-referenced them with other historical records. These voices know things that weren't written down, things that only the actual people would know. The museum director was skeptical until she spent a night in the exhibit. She heard them too, and one voice spoke directly to her, called her by name, told her details about her own family history, details she'd never shared with anyone, details about her great-great-grandmother who'd lived in Fort Worth in the 1880s. The voice said, "Your ancestor's diary is in this room. She wrote about you. Before you were born, she wrote, 'I hope my descendants know I love them, even the ones I'll never meet.'" The director searched the collection, found her great-great-grandmother's diary. It was scheduled to be added to the exhibit, but hadn't been displayed yet. She opened it to the last page. There, in faded ink, were the exact words the voice had spoken. The museum decided to close the exhibit for reevaluation. But the truth was simpler. The past was speaking, and nobody knew how to make it stop. The documents have been returned to climate-controlled storage. The exhibit hall has been repurposed, but staff still hear whispers sometimes. In other parts of the museum, near other historical items, as if the voices followed them, as if the past refuses to stay silent anymore. Story 4. The Corpus Christi Fog. Fog is normal along the Texas Gulf Coast, especially in Corpus Christi. Marine layer rolling in from the water, reducing visibility, making everything look ghostly. But in November 2019, a fog rolled in that was different. It arrived on a Tuesday evening. Thick, dense. Within an hour, visibility was less than 10 feet. Nothing unusual yet. Then people started noticing that the fog was wrong. It didn't move like fog should move. It formed shapes, deliberate shapes, figures, buildings, scenes that looked almost real. A fisherman named Roberto Valdez was on the bay when the fog came in. He immediately headed back to shore. As he navigated through the fog, he saw something that made him stop his boat. There, in the fog ahead of him, was a ship, a sailing ship, an old Spanish galleon, perfectly detailed, made entirely of fog. He could see sailors on deck, moving, working. They didn't acknowledge him. They went about their business as if he wasn't there, as if they were real. The fog ship sailed past him, silent, then dissipated. Roberto made it to shore and told others what he'd seen. At first, people thought he'd been drinking. Then others started reporting similar things. All around Corpus Christi, people were seeing images in the fog, historical scenes, buildings that no longer existed, people from different eras, all made of fog, all moving, all eerily silent. A historian identified some of the scenes from descriptions. The fog was showing Corpus Christi's past, events from the 1500s when Spanish explorers first arrived, the 1800s when the city was being founded, the early 1900s, different moments in the city's history, all playing out simultaneously in the fog. The phenomenon lasted for 3 days. During that time, hundreds of people witnessed historical scenes. Some took photos and videos. The images were there, captured on camera, ghostly figures in buildings made of water vapor. Then, on the third night, the fog lifted, disappeared as quickly as it had arrived. Normal weather resumed. Meteorologists had no explanation. The atmospheric conditions were unusual, yes, but shouldn't have produced the effects people described. One scientist suggested a theory: water has memory. Every molecule of water in that fog has been in the Gulf of Mexico for thousands of years. What if the water was remembering, playing back moments it had witnessed, showing us history through itself? It sounds impossible, but nobody has a better explanation. The fog hasn't returned. Not like that. But people in Corpus Christi still watch the weather carefully, especially in November, wondering if someday the fog will come back, and what new histories it might show them. Or worse, What if next time it doesn't show the past? What if it shows the future? Story 5, the Austin Podcast. This story is the most recent. It's still developing. Right now, a popular true crime podcast based in Austin started experiencing something strange 3 months ago. The podcast is called Texas Mysteries. Two hosts research and discuss unsolved cases across the state. They record in a small studio in East Austin. In January 2025, they recorded an episode about an unsolved case from 1995. Normal episode. Well-researched. Professional. They uploaded it to their hosting platform. Released it to their audience. Within hours, listeners started contacting them. There was a voice in the episode. A third voice. Someone who wasn't the two hosts. The hosts listened to the published episode. They heard it too. A woman's voice. Quiet. In the background. Saying, "I know what happened to her." They hadn't heard this voice during recording. It wasn't in their original files, but it was in the published version. They thought maybe their hosting platform had been hacked. Someone had edited the episode before it went live. They reported it, changed all their passwords, increased security. The next week, they recorded another episode. Different case. From 2003, they were extra careful, monitored everything, published the episode. Again, listeners heard an extra voice. A man this time, saying, "They never found the weapon because it's in the lake." The hosts were terrified. They considered stopping the podcast, but they decided to address it directly. They recorded a special episode explaining what was happening, asking their audience for help. When they published that episode, there were multiple voices in the background. Different people, all speaking at once, all claiming to have information about unsolved cases. The host brought in audio engineers, IT security experts, paranormal investigators. Nobody could explain how the voices were being added. They weren't in the original recordings. They weren't added during editing. They only appeared in the published versions. And here's the strange part. The information the voices were providing, it was accurate. One voice mentioned a weapon in a lake. Police were contacted. They searched. They found it. Case solved after 20 years. Another voice mentioned a name that hadn't been publicly connected to the case. Investigators followed up, made an arrest. The voices were solving cases, providing information that only certain people would know. But who were the voices? The hosts have a theory. What if one of them said in their most recent episode, "When we research these cases, when we speak the names of the victims, when we tell their stories, what if we're creating a connection? What if the people involved, the ones who passed away without justice, are using our podcast as a way to finally be heard? What if they're using our platform to speak?" The podcast is still running, still recording episodes, and every episode now has voices. Sometimes helpful, sometimes disturbing, always unexplained. The hosts have decided to embrace it, to use whatever this phenomenon is to help solve cases. But they admit, late at night, in the studio, when they're setting up equipment, they feel watched, they feel listened to, and sometimes, when they're not recording, they hear whispers, voices asking them to tell their stories, voices that won't rest until someone hears them. 5 stories, 5 mysteries, 5 incidents that make you question what you think you know about the Lone Star State. From West Texas deserts to Gulf Coast fog. From Dallas parking garages to Austin studios. From Marfa lights spelling out names to wind turbines sending messages. These are the tales that Texans know but don't always share. These are the experiences that make you wonder if there's more to reality than we can see. Texas is a state built on legends. The Alamo, oil booms, cowboys and pioneers. But beneath those famous stories, there are stranger tales. Tales of lights that speak in Morse code. Underground tunnels that hum at frequencies they shouldn't produce. Smart homes that learn too much. Beaches where figures gather in the water, waiting. Parking garages where cars drive themselves. river walks that pull you into the past, wind turbines that send messages, museum exhibits where history speaks, fog that remembers, and podcasts that become bridges between our world and something else. These stories remind us that Texas is more than just geography. It's more than cities and highways and wide open spaces. It's a place where the modern and the mysterious coexist, where technology sometimes reveals things it shouldn't, where the past refuses to stay buried, where the future might already be trying to communicate. The Marfa lights still flash their messages. Someone will eventually decode all of them, and we'll learn what those lost souls have been trying to tell us for over a century. The Houston tunnels still hum, and people still stop and stare at walls, lost in moments they can't remember. The Austin smart homes keep getting smarter, learning, watching, waiting. The Galveston figures keep gathering in the water, their numbers growing, getting closer to whatever threshold they're approaching. The Dallas parking garage fifth floor remains closed, but the cars still move at night, still circle in formation, still wait for something. The San Antonio River Walk still pulls people into its memories, brief glimpses of times that no longer exist. Except they do, somewhere. The Lubbock wind turbines spin in the Texas wind. Silent now, but watching, always watching. The Fort Worth Museum voices still whisper, telling stories that history books missed, sharing truths that were never written down. The Corpus Christi fog might return any November, bringing with it visions of what was, or what will be. And the Austin podcast continues. New voices joining every episode, new cases being solved, new mysteries being revealed. So what does it all mean? Are these glimpses of something beyond our understanding? Are they warnings? Messages? Or are they simply proof that reality is far stranger than we allow ourselves to believe? I'll let you decide, but I will tell you this. If you live in Texas, or if you're planning to visit, remember these stories. If you see lights in a Marfa desert and they start pulsing in patterns, don't try to respond. Just watch, and remember the names they spell out. If you're in the Houston tunnels and you hear a hum, keep walking. Don't stop. Don't stare at the walls. And definitely don't try to find the hidden chambers. If your smart home starts knowing things it shouldn't, unplug everything. Check the systems. Find out what's really learning about you. If you're on a Galveston beach on October 15th, January 8th, or May 23rd, look out at the water. Count the figures. But don't go near them. Don't try to reach them. Some things are waiting for a reason. If you park in downtown Dallas, avoid the fifth floor of that Elm Street garage. Just trust me on this one. Take the stairs. Use a different floor. Your car will thank you. If you're walking the San Antonio River Walk, stay with your group. Don't wander off. Don't let yourself get distracted. Because if you feel that pulling sensation, if you hear that high-pitched tone, you might end up somewhere you can't get back from. If you work at a wind farm in West Texas and the turbines start moving in patterns, write down the sequences. Someone needs to be documenting what they're saying, what they're trying to tell us. If you visit a museum and you hear whispers, listen carefully. The past has stories it needs to tell. And maybe, just maybe, it has something to teach us. If you're in Corpus Christi and an unusual fog rolls in, watch what it shows you. Take pictures if you can. Document it, because history written in water vapor is still history, and it deserves to be remembered. And if you listen to true crime podcasts, especially ones from Texas, and you hear extra voices in the background, don't dismiss them. Those voices might be solving cases, bringing justice, speaking truths that need to be heard. Texas is a big state, 29 million people. 268,000 square miles, deserts and forests, cities and small towns, coastline and prairies. And every corner of it has its own mysteries, its own stories, its own encounters with the unexplainable. These 10 stories are just the beginning. There are hundreds more, Thousands, probably. Things that happen in small towns that never make the news. Experiences people have but never report. Moments when reality flickers and shows us something it normally keeps hidden. This has been Haunted Reality Stories. Thank you for listening. Thank you for keeping an open mind. Thank you for understanding that the world is bigger and stranger than we often acknowledge. Stay safe out there, Texas. Stay aware. Stay curious. And remember, just because something can't be explained doesn't mean it isn't real. The next time you're driving across Texas, late at night, with nothing but open road ahead and stars above, remember these stories. Remember that you're not just traveling through geography. You're traveling through layers of history, layers of mystery, layers of reality that sometimes overlap with ours. Keep your eyes open. Keep your mind open. And if you experience something strange, something unexplainable, something that makes you question everything you thought you knew, document it. Share it. Add your voice to the collection. Because these mysteries, they're not going away. They're growing, evolving, adapting to our modern world, finding new ways to make themselves known. The lights will keep spelling messages. The tunnels will keep humming. The smart homes will keep learning. The figures will keep gathering. The cars will keep driving themselves. The river will keep remembering. The turbines will keep communicating. The whispers will keep speaking. The fog will keep showing. And the voices will keep solving mysteries. Until next time, keep listening. Keep watching. Keep wondering. Because in Texas, where everything is bigger, the mysteries are too. And they're just getting started.